Hello guys, Tills20 here and welcome back to Marble Mountain. In today's episode, we're going to be fixing a bunch of the problems that I created last week. I worked on these casinos, making them into very functional, very realistic casinos within the city, but as a bit of a consequence from that, we are seeing a lot of traffic, we're seeing a lot of problems, not just in Las Cruces, but in all of Marble Mountain. The traffic is affecting everywhere, so we need to fix that up before we have another massive death wave. I was on like 70,000 before, now I'm on 50, well 60. That's not good. So basically, if you missed it, these casinos, these buildings are now filled with commercial residents, but they're also filled with, they're also parks, so people are actually visiting the parks too. But we've also stupidly put in a whole bunch of these events that are happening. So at the moment, the Montana musical is happening and everyone's going to it. Just about looks like everyone within Marble Mountain has decided to go and see the musical. Because, yeah, I mean, it's gotten a little bit better now, but there was traffic all the way banked up all throughout here. So luckily that has fixed that up a fair amount, but I think the reason why is, yeah, the reason why it's a little bit better is because this is where all the traffic is. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is why I am saying it is affecting all of Marble Mountain, because we're seeing a lot of problems with a lot of the places around because of this. Now, I actually think one of the biggest problems is an easy fix. To see all these empty buses sitting here, well, I've just downloaded a mod by Bloody Penguin that can actually fix that. So let's just go back to Las Cruces. So to tackle the traffic situation, I thought, you know what, let's build an intercity bus station, and that'll solve a lot of problems. It's actually just made it a far lot worse. So with this new mod, I can now go bam, and that should hopefully get rid of all these empty buses. Well, this guy's full. Well, that guy's full. There's some empty ones out there. So that mod should actually stop a lot of those empty buses driving around in between my other intercity bus hub, which is, and I did say I was going to show you this last episode, but it's just causing an absolute headache in Oakwood. Yeah, so that's, I mean, this is all part of a much bigger problem that we'll deal with another time, but I'm just going to turn that off, and I'm hoping that'll clear a lot of those buses that are just randomly sitting there for no reason. Alright, so this bus situation is part of a much bigger problem that we're not going to solve today, because the bus network within Marble Mountain's just, it's pretty messed up, and we're causing a whole bunch of problems. And it's actually a really big shame, because all these people here are trying to get to Las Cruces, and that kind of sucks. I mean, especially for these people who've traveled, you know, this person's traveled from all the way out in Montana. They've used public transport, they've used the light rail to get all the way to see this musical, and they're not even going to get there. I'm letting them down with my public transport. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clear all of these coaches. Just like that. And then now that I've cleared all them, now only the ones that are actually going to transport these guys are going to spawn. And I'm hoping that should actually just fix a lot of that traffic situation. Alright, back to Las Cruces, because it is more about the roads than it is the buses. Alright, wow. Okay, so there's now no traffic on here, but I don't buy that for a second. We're going to get traffic on here for sure. So another area that I know that I can fix pretty much straight away is this guy just here. So basically cars are just lining up along here because they're waiting to turn right. But instead, I'm going to create a bit of a little sneaky slip lane, little right lane, little, I don't know what you call it, but we're going to create something, and I think you know what it's going to be. Now, unfortunately, this is just in the way. I wonder if I did this. Alright, trust me, this is going to look a lot better and work a lot better. And then if I change these guys to these guys. There we go. That's amazing. That's exactly what I wanted. Okay, that is working very well. There is a giveaway sign just here, so anyone turning right gives way to any traffic coming from this direction, which at the moment isn't a huge amount of traffic. And that's just making a huge amount of sense. And basically anyone over here has to stop at a stop sign. But I've also changed this to a double lane, and that's basically made it so that people have to make a decision here whether to turn left or right. And then once they're there, they are there and have to stick in those lanes. And I think that is going to make just a really big difference in terms of traffic flow. I've also changed a couple of things with the using the intersection marking tool too. Just done this side, it looks much better. I'm gonna do this side, and I also need to fix up down here, which yeah, because I've got this up there, it's just not looking great. So my idea is to basically use this network wall. Bam, bam, bam. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. And what are you waiting for? You can go. Oh, no, you cannot. Okay, so it's not absolutely perfect. We might need to create something similar there if these guys are turning right. But this is in the way. Okay, that's going to be a little bit tricky. Maybe we just leave it for now. That's fine. That's fine. We'll see how we go. I'm going to change this guy so he looks like this guy. Sweet. So I'm pretty happy with that. I call that okay, we're not quite winning just yet. What's going wrong here? Like, all these people are going to the same event. Okay, no they're not. There's something happening. Oh boy, we have another event happening. I knew this would happen. Why did I place multiple events in such a small area? Alright, so first job is to name this event to the late show with yours truly, just to match the sign. And now we just need to fix up some more of these intersections because, man oh man, these guys get jammed pretty fast. And I know it's not a huge deal because it just happens every now and again, but these events cross over quite a lot, so we do need to make sure that we have a pretty decent flow, otherwise we are going to be in a lot of trouble down the track. Problem is that this event is technically on this road that goes inside the casino, which means that the shortest route for these guys is straight up here. Maybe we do... Oops. Maybe we do something like this. Is this gonna be crazy? I don't know. I feel like this might actually change a few things. Okay, so now people can actually access it from this road too. So I'm hoping maybe that'll encourage some people to, instead of taking just this route, they might want to come up this way too, which is, you know, got no one here. So that might be a little bit of a helpful thing. See if that ends up working. Having a little bit of success with this. We are spreading out a bit of the traffic in different directions. People are coming through here, people are going over here. People don't really seem to be taking these other roads, so they are just taking the highways. But yeah, I mean, we could get something going on over there, which could absolutely look 10 billion times better. Yeah. But you can see it's so fast, and then all of a sudden we've just got an absolute conga line of traffic, and it just affects everything. And the thing is it affects everything within Marble Mountain, and because these events are happening all the time, they're pretty troublesome. And like pretty much all these people are like heading over to the late night show with KE, so we should probably try and fix it just a little bit more. You know what? Let's just have a crack at this. Okay, this has been a bit of a nightmare for quite a long time. All these poor suckers who are trying to do the right thing, catch public transport, and I'm just totally doing a bad job as mayor of the city, of the region. Alright, so let's fix this. Alright, I'm just making this pretty much crystal clear to these buses. Use this other lane, please, because they're not really doing that at the moment. Maybe I just need to give them a little bit more time, but I'm trying to make it so that they only go in one direction. No buses through here, please. No buses through here, please. Only cars can go that way. And then hopefully we start getting a bit more of a circular thing going on, so these buses can actually make some better choices, because they're not making very good choices right now. Come on, buses. Make the right choice. Go this way, please. Okay, now we're starting to get things moving along in here. Look, no cars banked up around here, and all buses are now just doing a full-on turn, just a little turnaround, and that is just so much better. This is still a little bit of a nightmare, but I don't really care too much about that. I'm happy about this, but I mean, of course, down here is just, it's really just not good. Excuse the lagginess. I mean, my computer's tanking it because of all the stuff that's going on, but yeah, lots of people still trying to get to Las Cruces, just on this one over here. So we probably need to give a couple more dedicated bus terminals for Las Cruces. But this is the line. This is the line to Las Cruces. I mean, yeah, I was pretty stoked about the fix we just did, until I saw this. Oh, come on. I don't think this traffic situation's going to be solved in one single episode. I'm going to do my best within a time lapse to try and work on some of the junctions and try and get something happening. But I think the solution to all this traffic is going to sit within public transport and trying to make sure that people are actually able to catch the transport in order to get to Las Cruces, so we can actually see some people using the casinos and, you know, trying to, yeah, make a little bit of a profit around here. But I think it's going to sit within public transport, not people driving to this place, because that's just not going to work. There's also a whole bunch of unutilized highways that are just stretching for ages and no one's using them. So I think it would be nice to actually start working on that. But I'm going to do a whole episode, I think, on public transport coming to Las Cruces. Today, I do want to focus my attention on smoothing out some of these intersections, because some of them could actually do a much better job at flowing traffic than they are at the moment. And then I might spend a little bit of time just doing some blocks, getting some a bit more expansion happening. Alright, that is the plan, and hopefully can get a little bit more traffic flow. So first things first, what I'm doing is working on these intersections that when I first built this area up, I really just connected 2 roads together, 3 roads together, and hoped for the best. And obviously the best is not happening, so I am actually going through now and adding in some better timed traffic lights and just seeing if the traffic is flowing the way it should be. Because like I mentioned in the live play, I think that most of the traffic problems that are happening within Las Cruces and affecting all of Marble Mountain is mostly due to the fact that there is not really any public transport coming out to Las Cruces. So everyone is trying to get there via the roads and it's just clogging everything up. So this is me trying to do the best as I can with the roads to see if I can actually make some improvements. And then I'm pretty excited for a full episode's worth of just working on rail infrastructure and bus networks and maybe even a monorail that gets people around the place. You know, just getting some really nice connections coming up. Maybe even a helicopter. Like, I think a helicopter from maybe Oakwood and Montana that's landing on the rooftops of, or at least nearby some of the casinos. You know, just for some real flashy tourists or people who just have a bit of extra cash to splash around and just decided to get a helicopter to Las Cruces. I think that'd be pretty fun. Of course, like helicopters have like the biggest amount of people trying to use them, so that's not really going to work totally how we want it to, but I think it'd be pretty cool to see some helicopters flying around. So yeah, that's going to be a whole episode's worth of that. But this, in fact, works pretty well. We do solve a lot of the traffic situation I actually realized as I was doing this using Traffic Manager, I realized that I had no vehicle to spawn, and that was causing a lot of the problems within Marble Mountain. So you can see that my population's now risen back up to 71,000. It had plummeted because we just had a lot of people just dying because they had no health care, weren't able to get to any hospitals. So this made a really big improvement to that. But regardless, the traffic situation is still pretty bad, even if I do have spawning options available. And to be honest, I kind of like not having, like, it's kind of fun when they can't despawn, despawn. Why am I saying despawn? Despawn. That sounds a bit better. But anyway, we've now stopped working on the traffic. I've done pretty much as best I can, and you could be able to see a lot more in the cinematics at the end, just how well everything's starting to flow around Las Cruces. But now we are starting to work on filling in this pretty big gap that has been bothering me for a while. I haven't really known what to do with it. Being so close to the highway, it's these areas are tricky because you have to imagine that the highway has come in last, well, sort of last. At least these suburbs were all connected. These roads were once connected, and when I worked out the roads, I did plan it out like that. But it's always tricky working around highways because you do have to sort of imagine what was there, what got demolished, and what is now being re-established, if that makes sense. And it's always a little bit of a tricky place to work in, but I think I decide on the best things to go around here. So first things first, there is now a very rundown, very old, pretty gross looking motel that I plan to do a lot more of these. For this one, I have done a very sneaky thing and just copied one that Green Bee created for the build competition. This is the second thing I've stolen from him, and look, I'm not proud of it, but I'm gonna do probably a few more because his builds are pretty amazing and they're worthy of copying. Plus, these things do look fairly standard and pretty common, so I am gonna probably copy that one a couple more times and place it other places. But this definitely does sell the vibe that I'm going for, because I do really love this about Las Vegas. It's just those, you got super flashy, super amazing resorts, casinos, just full of cash, just putting on a real show. And then you just got the sleazy side where some of these motels, some of these hotels are just pretty bad, pretty lame. And the casinos as well are looking pretty run down, could use a bit of renovating. So we're going to be placing down a whole bunch more of these. I'm going to do a whole episode where we just work on the shady side of Las Cruces. You know what? I think I might even call it that. I think that's kind of a fun title for a video. And speaking of other things that there's plenty of in Las Vegas, these strip malls. Apparently a bit of a thing within Las Vegas. So a lot of these, they're like not as easy to put together, they're kind of tricky for things that are fairly basic within cities and pretty copied and paste within cities as well. Yeah, they're kind of hard to make within city skylines because they require a fair amount of like splicing together using procedural objects. By the way, I'm using procedural objects for this because I don't want the buildings that I've placed within these parking lots to complain and cause problems. I have done a whole episode on how procedural objects saved my city, and that was not fun because it causes a lot of problems when vehicles cannot get to zoned buildings because they can't see a connection. There's no connection to a road, so you do have to be really careful of that. If you want to see that video, go and check it out. It explains it a lot better. But basically, I fixed it up with the help of Imperture, who helped me with figuring out the buildings that weren't connected. But I've learnt my mistake, and I'm making sure that every time I build a building and think it won't be connected to a road, I just turn it into a procedural object, and that way don't have to worry about that. They just do their thing on the side. And some things that I probably don't do as much on camera, but I do actually place down. So if I use procedural objects and turn something from, let's say, a commercial building into then a PO building, I then place down a whole bunch of commercial, like these little blocks you saw that I placed down in the last episode. I use them because I'd still want them to function like a commercial building, and that way it still gives off that you know, that, what word am I looking for? Still provides that service, but it just doesn't complain, which is good. But that little strip mall, I think, turned out pretty nice. It's, again, probably something I'm just going to copy to another location, because I think that one probably is easily copyable. This train line that stretches in the middle here is just so fun. I really love this about Las Cruces, because it just splits up the city a fair amount and creates some really interesting interactions with some of the buildings and some of the roads. It does cause a little bit of problems because I do have to try and figure out how to make it all integrate and work around it, but it just creates so much variation within Las Cruces, which would end up getting fairly boring if I just, you know, just worked on a very standard grid, which is Las Cruces. Las Cruces is a very standard grid, but it's very chopped up between big casinos taking up full blocks, and also this rail network, and also this river too. So Las Cruces, which was a very standard, very gridded layout, has turned into a very broken up layout, which is great. It is exactly what I wanted. And speaking of breaking up the grid layout, I decided to just do some more wavy roads on the outer edge, because this is getting towards the outskirts of Las Cruces. I don't think I'm going to be building too much more around that area. It's going to be mostly housing on the outer edge. There's very interesting types of houses out this way in Las Vegas, where they're really breaking away from the standard grid of Las Vegas, and there's some really cool layouts that I really would like to dive into and work on, start implementing within Las Cruces. And I'm just removing a little bit of the river too, because it just wasn't, I couldn't really justify placing it out that far. I was really not leaving myself much room going out there. But just really filling in some gaps. I mean, they're nothing really too exciting. We're just splicing in a couple of these retirement villages, and they work really well because the roof variants, not roof variant, I guess, the change in roof is very different to anything else within, I guess, the standard City Skylines game. Like, you don't really have very many rooftops like that, and it's good because it helps to break up, changes things a little bit. It also fits within the vibe of Las Cruces. Something that I keep forgetting to mention, but this is, I guess, this is maybe when you're watching this 2 weeks old footage, and when I was working on this, and even the last episode, I had this really weird glitch with my road textures, or actually more the pavement on the outer skirts of the road. You can see a lot of it's turned to gravel, and I didn't know what was causing that, and I was very close to just like sending out a message to people, hey, what the hell's going on? And then it fixed itself. So this is like the last episode where you'll see that glitch. It'll fix itself at the end. I guess there was something to do with maybe the most recent update and some mods, but I mean, the modders, they're so good at just updating their mods and making sure that things work pretty well. So yeah, that gets fixed up in the end. Okay, last little thing that we're up to in this episode is this area here. So I figured this might be a good area for a park. It's kind of a weird stretch of land between, you know, the highway and I guess the outer skirts of the city, and there's also this train line that goes through the middle here. So it's a very weird looking park. But I figured this would be a nice spot for it. We needed one too. We didn't really have any parks within Las Cruces, at least any sort of city parks. And I thought that they've either created the highway that, you know, probably went through half of the park, or they probably built the park because they'd already demolished so much around here that there was a lot of vacant land. But I'm trying to keep this park fairly simple, at least at this portion of the video. It's fairly simple, and I was about to call it a day, but then, you know, I'm looking at this space, and something that I need to get better at within City Skylines is the way that I'm using space within my cities. So I tend to just build and go, okay, that's pretty good. Like, I'm happy with that. But what I really need to be considering is how cities use space and how they're trying to fill as much area as possible. You know, they don't really want too much dead space within a city. You know, space is a premium. They need to make sure that they're using the most amount out of different areas. And where I had placed the baseball pitch, baseball field, I should say, you know, it looks fine there, but it's not really using space very well. I mean, there's only one pitch there. And I figured I could probably squeeze in 1 to 3 more. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to squeeze in 3 more. And the way that I'm doing it is I'm doing this circular shape, which is very common in the US. We don't really do this so much in Australia, but the US seem to do this a lot with their baseball fields, which makes sense, I guess, because they can access the fields through the middle, and any balls being knocked out go away from people, I suppose. But yeah, I decided to do this around the train line, which I don't know how realistic it is, but damn, it's cool. Like, this is really cool. I reckon this would be a really fun feature of this park. And probably this field, you know, people will probably think, oh, awesome, we get to play at the field that has the train line going through the middle of it. But I figured I could justify it because this train line would be very rarely used. This goes towards one of the industrial areas yet to be built, but that's the line it is. It's not commercial or pedestrian. It is just purely for industry. And I figured this would probably only really be used sparingly throughout the day, if not like, I don't know, 6 a.m. and another time, you know, that would be pretty much a time when nobody will be playing on the fields. And yeah, I figured that's how it would be. And it just creates a very interesting looking field. I really like it. So that's there, and that's it for today's episode. It was like a little bit different. What do you think about the long live play in the beginning? I did that because I wanted to release 2 episodes this week, and it just means I can record a big chunk of time, release a bit more content, but still, this video could have gone on for about 35 minutes. I actually cut a whole bunch of footage, so could have been a bit longer, but I kind of enjoyed it. So let me know if you think that works for midweek episodes, and if you did enjoy this episode, consider liking it or subscribing to the channel if you would like some more content, or become a patron and support the channel, which a bunch of these people have done, who I'm about to read and butcher the names of. Damo Cooper, Keandre Dorsey, Nick Serafine, Adam Evans, Nesta Chet, Ferg, Lucky Panda, VLDC 1000, Charlie Zane, and Maximilian. Thank you all so much for your support. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!